Well, hello.
Hello.
Thank you for that backup support.
Hello.
Oh, yes. We're helloing everybody out there. This is Bill Sefakar with John Trackman.
That was the energy of an AM radio station of the 70s.
Oh, I like it. I'm going there. I'm going to New York.
You were like Cousin Brucey.
Yeah, Cousin Billy. Okay, and Cousin James is here too. We have an amazing show. One of the things that I had been looking forward to from the inception of the American Dreamer Show, that's now podcast on Streaker.com.
Streaker? You mean Spreaker?
Spreaker. Wow.
Streaker, that's a whole nother
That's
network.
another show.
Yeah,
that's not for me.
show.
That's not my
That's something
genre.
else. That's something else from the 70s.
Spreaker.com and iHeartRadio, Spotify.
Okay.
And for our extra viewing
for people who actually want to watch Bill,
oh, man.
there's YouTube.
Yes.
Bill Sefakar on YouTube.
Traction.
And people, follow us on YouTube. Do us this favor, because if we get enough followers, I'm not going to tell you how many, but if we get enough followers, we'll be able to change the podcast name to American Dreamer.
Yes.
But follow us at Bill Sefakar.
Please.
Thank you.
And there's a lot of good stuff going on there, and we like to share and get feedback.
Sefekar.
Sefekar.
That's
First name, Bill. Like what you don't like to get, but I like to give. I mean, on the air. I like to give it on the air. But anyway, this show has a lot of wonderful things that we're going to share with our viewers and listeners. And it revolves around making a difference. And we've talked about that in our shows. You have added a lot of wonderful things.
I like to think that we make a difference in our own little way.
Yes. And we just do it. We just like to do good things. And you're out there working with educating people like myself. I mean, I educate people also. You also educate me, but, you know.
I educate you every day, don't I?
No, only when we're here.
Right.
Believe me, that's all I don't see.
You won't listen to me any other time.
Otherwise, we go to baseball games sometimes,
Yep.
and and other fun things. But right now, part of the show we have is 2 song selections, and the first song, which has as our thumbnail sketch, is the House on Pooh Corner, which was performed by Kenny Loggins. And I will get into that when I'm ready to go do that. And then we have Dr. Herman Koren, a very dear man and mentor, who is going to be visiting us here on the American Dreamer Show. And he's
visiting us in person? He's stopping by?
No, on the air.
Aha. You mean he's calling us up?
Yes, he's calling us up.
We got to get that straight.
Well, he's visiting, telepathically, whatever. But he's definitely a man to be reckoned with.
There's
and listened
things
to.
about this podcast, technically, that you haven't informed us about, Bill.
Oh,
he's connecting with us telepathically. I'm confused. There's that confused look on my face again.
Telepathically, okay. Why? He's going to be calling, and we're going to talk to him about not only his 21st book about the environment, public health, and environmental health, but has 2 new contracts that they think enough of all his credentials. He's going to be presenting that in the near future. And the song that goes with it, if we have a chance, time to do involving the environment, was Mother Nature's Son. That was originally recorded by the Beatles and written by Paul McCartney. And so,
you say originally. Has anybody else covered it? Because I'm not aware of any bands covering that song.
Well, I don't know if it's a band, John, but who would you think would have covered it? Who do you think would have been considered?
John Denver covered it. He did. You're right.
Mother Nature's Son. So if you think,
you're right.
And that's the one that
Oh, you tricked me. You tricked me into thinking you were doing a Beatles song when you're actually doing a John Denver song.
Well, his was easier to do, because he's out there and Mother Nature's land.
All right.
And so I wanted to share some good things that are happening. And one of it is that we had met Dan Rooney, my associate and social media guru, met with the director of the Palm Harbor Library a few weeks ago. And we talked about the new possibilities to go out, Mr. Bill's Adventures.
Oh, no.
Yes. I hope they don't, well, we'll see what they say after they see. But, and playing and singing, and there's a youth director of youth services at the library, and I talked to her. We're going to try to come up with something. And I am going to pursue the rock show. I always wanted to be a rock star.
You keep threatening me with that.
Well, I'm bringing the next taping, the next broadcast, I will bring in a selection of rocks, stones, and things that I think were going to be the American Dreamer show rocks.
I think I know where these rocks are coming from.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I don't. Maybe I'll follow you.
Maybe your head.
I'll shake my head a little bit, open my mouth, and there we go.
Okay.
But I think, and maybe even donate them to these special places with American Dreamer phrases that we can come up with.
Okay. All right.
I'll come up with it.
I can see it.
And you can work with me because you
All right.
have contributed an amazing amount of things. So in that regard, also next time I was going to bring these, but we have so much to do. I think I might have mentioned that my sister Bonnie created the first volume of Billy stories.
Oh, yeah. I've heard a few of these Billy stories.
I know. I keep creating them. I mean, this was when I was 29 years old, and it was volume 1, and I'll show you the book, and I'll bring it next time.
I can't believe these stories didn't start earlier.
Well, it had to do with the first 29 years.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so you could imagine since then, it'll be fun. I'm going to share that with you, and we're going to get into this first song is Kenny Loggins' House at Pooh Corner. An interesting thing about this is that the song was written when he was with Loggins and Messina, Jim Messina. And then he decided to, about 20 years later, recreate it. And it was called Return to the House at Pooh Corner. And he added a couple of verses that then he was a father and he had a son. So that winds its way into the revised edition.
So this is the revised edition.
Return to the House at Pooh Corner. And what it is, and last Sunday was Father's Day. And I hope we all, mine was pleasant enough. I actually did on Facebook a montage of pictures that appeared in the book American Dreamer, A Look into the Life of My Father, Joe Baby.
That's very nice. Yeah, my brother did that. My brother did that for my family and shared it with my cousins, and it had all of our fathers, my cousins. So it was very nice.
Beautiful.
And everybody it was a tearjerker. It was very.
It was.
Yeah. It was very, and it's so easy to do, and it's just like, wow, I could have done that, but he took the time to do it.
I did it, and I got a lot of positive feedback. Even my sister Bonnie.
Yeah.
She said, "What a nice tribute."
Yeah.
And I said, Bonnie, your lovely family. We're a product of that tribute from my dad and mom.
Right.
So it has that little weaving in about Father's Day, and it's a really cute song. I think from a few of the pictures that we have from House at Pooh Corner that we were able to come up with a few things that you can enjoy the pictures of Christopher Robin and Pooh.
Now can you go into the background briefly about the song?
Yes.
Obviously, it's about Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Has his honey jaw stuck on.
And how did
nose.
Loggins and Messina get into
writing it? Well, this was a very popular song back in England. The Winnie the Pooh stories, and with Tigger and Piglet and the whole group.
Yeah.
And they were doing all kinds of things and having fun and getting into little trouble. And then Christopher Robin, which is a boy, he sort of takes him under his wing.
Well, no, I mean, how did Loggins and Messina get involved with doing the music for it?
Well, it's just a fun song with kids, and you put phrases together. He got a honey jar stuck on his nose, so they made fun of it, and they made a beautiful song, and you can tell. And Disney picked it up, and
and I saw a clip on YouTube where they put it to music. It was kind of cool.
This is the kind of thing that we like to share because it's fun, and I hope people enjoy. They can look online and come up with a few other additions to Winnie the Pooh doesn't know what to do, and maybe they'll find a few things to do with Winnie the Pooh. So here we go. It's a long song. I'm going to do it the best I can. You know that.
How long is it? 12 minutes.
A couple of minutes. So here we go. Winnie the Pooh, Return to Pooh Corner by Kenny Loggins. Christopher Robin and I walked along under branches lit up by the moon, posing our questions to our Lady, Lord, as the days got too fast, all too soon. Christopher Robin and I walked along under branches lit up by the moon, posing our questions to our Annie as the days got too off all too soon. But I wanted much further today than I should, and I think I can find my way back to the wood. So help me if you can, I got to get back to the house at Pooh Corner by one. You'd be surprised, there's so much to be done. Count all the leaves in the high, chase all the clouds from the sky, back to the days of Christopher Robin and Pooh. Winnie the Pooh doesn't know what to do, got a honey jar stuck on his nose. He came to me asking health and advice, and from here no one knows where he goes. So I sent him to ask of thee how if he can loosen a jar from the nose of a bear. So help me if you can, I got to get back to the house at Pooh Corner by one. You'd be surprised, there's so much to be done. Count all the bees in the hive, chase all the clouds from the sky, back to the days of Christopher Robin and Pooh. It's so hard to explain how a few precious things seem to long enough chase throughout our lives. After all said and done, I was watching my son sleeping there with my hair by his side. So I tucked him in, I kissed him, and as I was going, I swear that old bear whispered, "Boy, welcome home. Believe me if you can, I finally return to the house at Pooh Corner by one, and you'd be surprised. There's so much to be done. Count all the bees in the hive, chase all the clouds from the sky, back to the days of Christopher Robin, back to the days of Christopher Robin, back to the days of Pooh. Back to the days of Pooh. Back to the days of Pooh. Well, I wish I could go back to Pooh. I thought this.
Don't make me say it.
I thought the 12-string guitar would lend itself to this, but it would have been better off on the 6-string.
Oh.
Because there's a lot of changing chords, and it's all a lot more confining to do it. But we'll work on it. I'll send it out on my next CD. But it has a lot of messages, you know, and the probably the most powerful thing besides being able to create that song with the bear and the animals and the relationship that Christopher Robin had with Winnie the Pooh. But this phrase, and I'm sorry I didn't do it justice, but it says it's hard to explain how a few precious things seem to follow throughout all our lives. After all said and done, I was watching my son. And this is, you know, sleeping there with the bear by his side. So that says mountains. It could be a daughter. It could be a nephew or niece, you know. Whatever.
Yep, right.
So that was the message that I was hoping to get across, and that's one of the hazards of doing this show live. And live. It's live.
We'll do it live. Speaking of doing it live.
Yes, we have a most renowned author, Dr. Herman Koren, who is a dear friend and a mentor, and he has amazing things that he's accomplished in his 63 years. And he sent me some stuff I worked on. He would be 86 on July 1st. Well, hey, Dr. Koren, we're going to call him in a minute. We're going to wish him a happy birthday. I hope we're ready for that. He had a very fine upbringing with his family, and they really cherished being here in the United States. They were immigrants, his parents. They went, and father served in World War I, and he got involved with environmental and public health, and he did that for his whole life because this was his calling and it wasn't a job. And his goal as a professional supervisor, administrator, professor, author, he always been to prevent disease and injury and promote the public health. So he's been working since 1955. And the last, over the last 8 years and the last 20 years in the United States, he'd been, he says there's been political groups that denies the fact there's global warming and will inhibit, ability to have a good and decent life. This is the only proverbial tip of the iceberg. But we have protected our lives, is what he worked on, our planet, our children, our grandchildren, and future generations that he's done over the last 60 years. Before I get him on the phone, I'll just share, in addition to 21 books that he has written and authored, this was a book he compiled. It's about 700 pages, History of the Jewish People in Pinellas County, Florida, 1883 to 2015. And when I was doing a television show, John, Public Access TV, B'nai B'rith Present, he was on the show, and we even got a proclamation from the county commissioners, Board of County Commissioners, for Jewish History Week. And we went there, and a rabbi, and he...
Oh, cool.
And it was, and it was on one of the shows. But what I also felt really good about, I was teaching, and so I went to the school board, and we were able to bring this book, to have it available as part of their media resource day for all media resource teachers in Pinellas County. And he spoke for almost an hour, and they had this book available because it's not just for Jewish people. You could do this for any denomination, any group, to compile a history, and how lovingly he put this together with pictures and families, and back from 1883 to 2005. So anyway, that's one of his things. But this is what we're talking about here. This is his 21st book. Best Practices for Environmental Health, Environmental Pollution Protection, Quality and Sustainability. And at this time, we're going to get Dr. Herman Korn, come forth and enlighten us. Dr. Korn, can you hear us?
Yes, I do.
Oh, it's such a blessing to have you here. And this is so wonderful that you can share with us some of the things that have made a difference when you've decided to commit and your whole life you've dedicated to making a better planet, a better living quality. So, and I remember when we talked, and John did a beautiful job of taping the January lecture that you got, and it was on YouTube. And you talked about silencing science as a serious blow to the economy and for the health of the people of the United States. Have things improved since then?
I'll tell you what has happened is that the situation is certainly deteriorated.
Could you talk a little louder into the phone, please?
The
Thank you.
situation about taking care of our scientific people here in this country has worsened terribly. There was a report put out, or was supposed to be put out by the federal government on global warming, and it was quashed by the political entities. They don't want people to know about global warming. They think it'll go away. The problem is it will not go away. You look at the fires, the forest fires that we've seen. In fact, even in Montana, the great sky country, they're having forest fires like they've never seen before.
Well, it's not just forest fires, it's water. I mean, they said there was 70 years early, the melting of the Canadian Timberlake line. The water is 70 years. So we're getting more and more evidence. I think hopefully, God willing, they'll make a solid effort and commitment, because you can't ignore some of these things, and people are more alert and more sensitive. So we're out looking, we're beating the bushes under the rocks.
Well, we have a lot more than forest fires.
Yes.
We have severe weather. Look what happened to Panhandle in Florida. It's still devastated, still has not been taken care of. The little kids, the children, are the ones that suffer the most. They not only suffer a loss of homes in hurricanes and in forest fires and in landslides, they suffer emotionally so much that it'll stay with them the rest of their lives. The kids depend upon their parents to keep them safe, and the parents cannot keep them safe. And the reason we have global warming is because of people. There is no other reason.
Well,
I mean, we add some from cows, we add some from other activities, but basically it's people. And this nonsense about getting people to drill for more oil and get more coal out of the ground is totally wrong.
Well,
we have a real problem.
I know we do.
Because we stop pulling coal out of the ground, we put a bunch of people out of work. And every time we've had a change in technology in our world, people have suffered and other people have prospered.
Industrial revolution, yes.
To it. And the solution is that for these small communities that depend on the coal and oil that we need to do away with in many cases, we need to simply retrain them. Use our money for that, not for tax breaks for the very rich.
All right. Well, you talk about, younger people. You mentioned children that are affected. Social media is the place where a lot of people, especially the younger people, and they get their information about decisions. So they should be making these inputs for their lives and the families' lives concerning these things, including their health. And so, things such as like the group that's for or against anti-vaccination, is this a good idea? Or how do you deal with this?
I'll tell you that the Internet has been terribly misused. People Google and they automatically assume it's accurate. It's not. There are many mistakes. There are many out-and-out lies on the Internet. And if you're going to do any kind of Internet research, you have to go to peer-reviewed journals, or you go to the universities, or to the various professional associations or government is where you get the information. That's not what people get it. And as a result of it, we've had severe outbreaks of measles, and that's just the beginning. We're going to see so much disease in this country, you will not believe it. And that's because we have a group of people that say, do not vaccinate, the kids will become paralyzed. The chances of a kid becoming paralyzed on vaccination is so minimal compared to the amount of disease that is happening. During the Second World War for measles, the soldiers landing on the Pacific Islands infected the natives there, and they died from measles because they had absolutely no experience. Well, we have a lot of people in this country have no experience with measles. They have no vaccinations. They'll die. It's that simple. So we must get everybody vaccinated. We have to stop paying attention to the Internet and pay attention to the scientists.
Okay, I like that. With your 63 years, Dr. Koren, and still going strong in environmental health and public health fields, what are the major problems you see, for the future that we attempt to deal with?
What we're going to see for the future will be an extension of what we have in the present. We've reached a point where there are political entities, and I'm not speaking as a Republican, Democrat, Independent. I'm speaking as a practical scientist. There are things going on today that is destroying our water, our air, our food, our land, and it's getting worse and worse. The Environmental Protection Agency was created for a major purpose, to bring everything together. In fact, it was a Republican president, Mr. Nixon, who started the EPA, using public health service officers to do so.
You were
And
part
the
of
whole
that, right?
idea was that we will protect people, and instead what we're doing now is destroying it.
All right. Why did you, and we're so proud, we're so really appreciative of what you did. You dedicated your whole life, Dr. Korn, to environmental health and public health and teaching of students. And this is so important to bring this to the next level. What can we say for future generations about why they should enter these fields of endeavors in their career?
We can tell the future generations what I told my students when I was teaching them, that if you go into this field, you'll never get wealthy. You'll make a darn good living. You'll send your kids to college and take care of your family. But the wealth that you will receive will be the satisfaction of knowing that you have helped other people. And I just want to tell you that yesterday I received a phone call from one of my graduates from 1974. Wow. And she said to me, "Thank you, Dr. Korn, not only for giving me a profession, but of teaching me a way of life." Wow. And this is really what it's all about.
The dedication. Yes.
Life is not making a fortune. Life is helping others.
Oh, that is so good. We try to emphasize this, right, John, when we're here?
Absolutely.
And you're doing this. You dedicated a whole life. And I can attribute what my dad did. You knew my dad very well, Dr. Korn, and you're from the same ilk. And this is a copy of your book I'm putting up there for our viewers. And John knows that on Spreaker.com, let me just say this is used at universities and colleges and government agencies and offices as a like a Bible. And you told me just the other day that you were you were contracted for 2 new books that you're going to be doing.
Today I received the official letter and the contracts. The 2 new books will be Management and Supervision of Environmental Health Professionals. The typical person promoted to supervisor is one that's excellent technically, doesn't know the first thing about working with people. And you can have all the plans you want and all the money and all the great goals and objectives, but you have to have a person who knows how to use human resources effectively in order to accomplish programs, to make things work properly.
Yes,
and that's what these 2 books are out. It's a rewriting of the 3rd edition that came out in 1995. This edition will be good for the next 20 to 30 years.
And I've seen the acknowledgments and the accolades that you receive from your, fellow, experts about the global warming and environmental health. This is really a beautiful story that you're sharing with us. And Doctor, I'm giving you an open-ended invitation. Anytime you want to come back and give us an update on things, you're more than welcome. And I know your number and you know my number, so we'll keep that channel open. But we love you for all you do, and send our regards to Donna, your lovely wife. And thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Welcome. I just want to add one thing. My parents were also American dreamers, just like your dad.
So beautiful.
Thanks, Doctor.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Doc.
I'll be signing off now.
Amen. Thanks again. God bless.
Right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. I am so blessed to know that man. I've known him 25 years. And all right, moving right along.
He gave us a lot of good information in a short amount of time.
Yes, he's
no, and I like his message that he touched on, and that he tries really hard to not make it a political.
We're not home.
To not make it a political thing, and he made a point to mention about how Richard Nixon started the EPA, and that's quite. I don't think a lot of people realize that Richard Nixon. Can someone get the phone? I know the phone is ringing off the line, folks. When people are trying to connect to American Dreamer, and
yes, after they
we're
heard
not
Dr.
we're
Carr,
not taking calls right now. Well, we got about 10 minutes left in the
right.
show, Bill. What do you want to
Well,
what do you want to fill it with?
I have something very special.
All right.
Very special. And how come when I'm very special, I don't find it?
I don't know.
But here it is, right here.
Because you're very special, Bill.
I know. Well, now I'm even more special. One of the crypto quotes.
Oh, you know how I love these crypto quotes, Bill.
Well, it opens up so many doors to me. I'm just so amazed at what happens. And so when I see the author, and this one was Kofi Annan, Kofi, second name Annan. I said, who is this guy? How could he say so many nice things? And I don't know who he is. You know, he said the answer for that crypto quote, and it was Wednesday, June 19th, just a few days ago. We're Friday here. So it was, actually it was the 18th, because this is the answer. Knowledge is power. Information is liberating. That was Kofi Annan. So as want I am, I look it up. I say, well, what happened? How come these people can do this beautiful, inspirational stuff? Well, I look it up. He was the first black United Nations executive director, the United Nations. And he got the Nobel Peace Prize in 2001. It was awarded to him for working together and organizing for peace. I said, wow.
I thought the name sounded familiar.
Yes. He's from Ghana.
Ghana.
So they're called Ghanaians, I think. Anyway, so I just want to share with you. He said, we may have different religions, different colored skin, but we all belong to one human race. These are some of his quotes. And when women thrive, all of society benefits, and succeeding generations are given a better start in life. I'm just reading a few. There's about 15. You're never too young to lead. Invite politicians to dinner and let them tell the world how delicious it is. They will proudly go around and say, I ate crickets. I ate locusts, and they were delicious. And that's coming from Executive Director of the United Nations. Peace is never a perfect achievement. We all have means and the capacity to deal with our problems, if only we can find the political will. I was just going to say, if only we can find the politicians, but it says, if only we can find the political will. And gender equality is more than a goal. It is itself a precondition for meeting the challenge of reducing poverty, promoting sustainable development, and building good governance. Okay, I'm going to leave you with this John Denver and the Beatles. I'm going to tell you this. I looked at, I do research on this, okay? And Paul McCartney, who wrote Mother Nature's Son, he was visiting his father. And he always had good vibes when he was visiting his father. And he would get creative or inspirational. And that's how he wrote Mother Nature's Son. He was visiting his family, and he came up with a very good concept, and that's how this song originated. So I just wanted to share.
He was visiting his father?
Yeah.
Okay.
In England, I guess. So these things occur. And it's called Mother Nature's Son.
Kind of ties in with the whole
environmental
thing, yeah.
And it has my John Denver's stamp on it.
Yeah, you tricked me. I thought it was a Beatles song. It is. You're going to sing it John Denver style, though. Country twist.
Well, if you see, I want our listeners to Google both Paul McCartney and the Beatles rendition and how they did it, and then also John Denver's. So here's John Denver and the Beatles together. Mother Nature's Son. We too hot? a poor young country boy. Mother Nature's son. All day long I'm sitting singing songs for everyone. Sit beside a mountain stream, watch her waters rise, listen to the pretty sound of music as she flies. Good, thank you. Find me in my field of grass, Mother Nature's son. Swaying daisies sing a lazy song beneath the sun. Oh, here we go. We're gonna just do it. Born a poor young country boy, Mother Nature's son. All day long I'm sitting singing songs for everyone. Sit, do. Oh, we'll put a little do.
I don't know all the words. I'm sorry. I just know the do.
Now here we go. Sit beside a mountain stream, watch her rivers rise.
Do.
Listen to the pretty sound of music as she flies.
Do.
Oh, thank you, John. Do. And here we go, last verse. Find me in my field of grass, Mother Nature's son. Sing a lazy song beneath the sun for everyone. I just made that up. Oh, God. Do. Oh, let's go. Do.
We going out with our do.
We're gonna go. How much time do we have left?
I say we go out with our do.
All right. Next time we're gonna do better on the guitar, I promise. And John, I like your accompaniment, so we're gonna do that. Have a wonderful week ahead. I'm bringing in the rocks, and I'm bringing in Billy Stories, Volume 1 for next time. And John will have a couple of things that he's going to... John, did you want to mention something?
No, I have nothing to mention. We got to go.
All right, next week we'll mention it. Okay. He's doing our studio here. This is going to be called Studio One. And for all our listeners out there, thank you. Thank you. And God bless. Have a great week or two, and we'll see you when we come back and in full blossoms. We're going to bring blossoms. We're going to bring half blossoms.